The first time my fiancé called me a mistake, he did it with a microphone in his hand and 200 people holding champagne. The ballroom went silent so fast I could hear ice crack inside the silver buckets. Ethan Kingsley stood beneath a crystal chandelier, smiling like the cruelty had been rehearsed. Behind him, our engagement cake rose in 7 white tears. My initials were still painted beside his in gold. On my finger, his diamond felt heavier than a shackle. "I tried," Ethan said, voice smooth, polished, merciless. "God knows I tried. But a man only gets one life, and I refuse to spend mine pretending I'm proud to stand beside a woman who looks like she ate the bride." A few people gasped. Not enough. His mother looked into her champagne flute. His father adjusted his cufflinks. My aunt lifted a hand to her mouth and did not move. Then the side doors opened. A woman stepped in wearing silver silk that clung to her like moonlight. Tall, sharp-boned, impossible to ignore. Her smile looked practiced. Sienna Vale. I knew her face from perfume ads and runway clips Ethan used to scroll past in bed. I did not know she had been sleeping with my fiancé. Ethan held out his hand. "She is the woman I should have chosen from the beginning." Sienna crossed the ballroom slowly, letting every camera catch her. Ethan opened another ring box. Another diamond waited inside. Bigger. Colder. The guests shifted like one animal. Nobody knew whether to leave, whisper, record, or clap. I stood in my ivory gown, the one Ethan's mother had inspected for months while saying, "A bride should inspire discipline." Ethan had laughed and told me not to be sensitive. Now I understood. This was never a celebration. It was a stage. "Take it off, Olivia," Ethan said. I stared at him. "The ring. Don't make this uglier." "Why are you doing this?" I whispered. He leaned close enough for the microphone to catch him. "Because every time I touched you, I felt like I was doing charity." The string quartet stopped playing. I pulled the ring off. It stuck at my knuckle, and Ethan laughed under his breath. When it finally slipped free, I dropped it into his palm. His mother appeared beside me with a leather folder. Victoria Kingsley handed me paperwork. "Sign before you leave," she said. "It protects everyone." "What is this?" "A clean separation agreement." "We were engaged, not merged." Her smile thinned. "Don't be dramatic. Hart Legacy Holdings is entangled with Kingsley Hotels through investment announcements, vendor guarantees, and wedding contracts. Ethan has agreed to absorb the embarrassment if you cooperate." I opened the folder. The words blurred, then one phrase sharpened. "Transfer of voting interest. Hart Legacy Holdings, my father's company." "You want my shares?" "You barely understand what you own. That company is all I have left of my family. Without Ethan, you have no access to the world required to keep it alive." She stepped closer. "Look around, dear. These people came for him. Sign, leave quietly, and maybe this evening doesn't become worse." Across the ballroom, Ethan slid the new diamond onto Sienna's finger. My humiliation had become entertainment. I closed the folder. "No." Victoria's face hardened. Ethan came back with Sienna on his arm. "Liv, don't make this pathetic. You planned this. You brought me here, dressed me like a bride, waited until everyone was watching, and then put those papers in front of me." Sienna laughed softly. "Maybe if you paid more attention to business and less attention to dessert, you would have seen it coming." The room let it land. That hurt more than the insult. A man near the bar smirked. A woman in emerald earrings looked away too late. My own cousin suddenly studied his drink. Ethan stepped close, whiskey on his breath, hatred under his cologne. "You are going to sign," he whispered. "Without me, you are a fat nobody in an expensive dress. Your father is dead. Your mother is dead. The only reason anyone knows your name is because I put mine next to it." My hand moved before I decided. The slap cracked through the ballroom. For 1 second, he looked shocked. Then his fingers closed hard around my wrist. "You stupid!" A glass shattered above us, not dropped, crushed. Everyone looked up. A private balcony hung over the ballroom, half hidden behind black velvet drapes. I had assumed it was empty. It wasn't. A man stood there in a charcoal suit, one hand on the railing, the other relaxed at his side. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark-haired, completely still. Not the stillness of a guest, the stillness of a loaded gun. Matteo De Luca, the Don of Lower Manhattan. A man bankers smiled at and police captains avoided. A man my father once warned me never to owe, never to insult, and never to look in the eye unless I was ready for the truth. Matteo looked at Ethan's hand around my wrist. Then he descended the stairs. No one stopped him. Even Ethan let go before Matteo reached us. The Don crossed the marble floor with two men behind him, both in black suits, both watching exits instead of faces. Matteo stopped in front of Ethan. He did not look at Sienna. He looked at the red marks forming on my wrist. "Apologize," he said. Ethan tried to laugh. It came out wrong. "This is private." "No," Matteo said. "Private happens behind closed doors. You made this public." Richard Kingsley pushed through the guests. "Matteo, this is not the time." Matteo turned his head. Richard stopped walking. That was when I understood. The Kingsleys were not uncomfortable around him. They were afraid. Matteo took out his phone. Half the room inhaled. "One call," he said to Richard, "and your bridge loan closes before midnight. 2 calls, and every port moving your marble, wine, cars, and dirty cash forgets your name." Richard's jaw clenched. Sienna did not look frightened. That was the detail. Everyone else watched Matteo. I watched her. She was studying him. On her wrist, half hidden under diamonds, was a silver bracelet shaped like a wolf biting its own tail. Matteo saw it too. His expression changed just enough to chill the room. "Where did you get that?" Sienna's fingers closed over the bracelet. Ethan frowned. "What does that matter?" Matteo ignored him. "Victor Morozov sends pretty gifts now." A ripple moved through the guests. Most did not understand the name. The ones who did went still. Richard did. His face lost color. Sienna said, "It's jewelry." "No," Matteo said. "Jewelry sparkles. That threatens." Ethan looked between them, finally unsure. He knew enough to hurt me, enough to rob me, enough to make me stand there while everyone watched, but not enough to know whose war he had stepped into. Matteo held out his hand. "The folder, Olivia." My name sounded strange in his mouth. Not gentle, not sweet, steady. I gave it to him. Victoria moved. "You have no right." Matteo did not look at her. "Madam, I have touched men's throats for less." She shut her mouth. He opened the folder. Clean separation agreement, voluntary transfer of voting interest, release of future claims, confidentiality clause, waiver of emotional distress. He looked up. Waiver of emotional distress. Ethan stepped forward. "She doesn't understand the company. I was saving her from herself." Matteo turned one page. With a document drafted 3 weeks ago. Ethan froze. 3 weeks ago he had kissed my shoulder in the kitchen and said he could not wait to call me his wife. 3 weeks ago I found one of my father's cufflinks and cried into his shirt. 3 weeks ago his lawyers had already prepared to strip me bare. "You wrote this before tonight," I said. "Business takes planning," he muttered. "Was Sienna business too?" "No," he said too late. Matteo laughed once. "You trained him poorly, Richard." Richard's phone buzzed. Then another phone. Then another. Matteo slipped his own phone away. Richard checked his screen. The color left his face. "What did you do?" Ethan demanded. "I made the call." Richard stared at Matteo. "You froze the line." "I warned you not to use my ports for Morozov money." Ethan turned to his father. "Dad?" Richard ignored him. Matteo's voice stayed calm. "Your son thought cruelty would distract her. He thought shame would make her obedient. He thought if he put a thinner woman beside her, everyone would watch the body and miss the theft. Not heartbreak, theft. Mateo looked toward the ceiling corner. Security room, main screen. The ballroom watched itself. A recording appeared. The room earlier that night, empty except for staff, Victoria, Ethan, and a lawyer holding the leather folder. Victoria's recorded voice said, "Wait until after the announcement. She'll be too humiliated to argue." "She might cry." "Good," Victoria said. "Crying women sign faster." The video continued. Ethan flipped through the folder. "Once she signs, hard as ours?" The lawyer nodded. "Her voting interest transfers by morning. The rest follows through debt assumption." Ethan smiled. "Perfect. I want this over before dessert." Then the whispers started. Phones came up. People who had ignored my pain suddenly cared about evidence. Ethan said, "That's out of context." A man near the bar muttered, "What context fixes that?" Sienna stepped back. Ethan noticed. Don't what?" she said. "Don't act like you didn't know." Mateo turned slowly. "What did she know?" Richard cut in. "Enough. This ends now." "No," I said. My voice was quiet. The room still heard it. I looked at Ethan. "You stood in front of everyone I know and told them I was too disgusting to marry." "Olivia." "You made them laugh at me." I was angry. "No, you were prepared." I took the folder from Mateo's hand. "Did you ever love me?" The question was stupid, wounded, human. Ethan stared at me. For 1 second, I thought he might lie well enough to hurt me again. Instead, his face twisted. "You were useful." There it was. The world simply became clear. "Thank you," I said. He frowned. "For what?" "For finally saying something honest." Sienna edged toward the side exit. Mateo did not look at her. "Miss Vale?" She stopped. "Tell Victor his little wolf was seen." Her face went pale. Ethan looked at her. "Who is Victor?" She did not answer. Then, from inside the leather folder, a phone began ringing. A hidden phone, sewn into the document lining, lit up against the black leather. One name glowed on the screen. Victor. Mateo reached for it. Ethan got there first. He grabbed the folder, saw the name, and terror crossed his face. The call connected on speaker by accident. A man's voice filled the ballroom, low, accented, amused. "Is the fat bride crying yet?" Nobody moved. Mateo raised his gun. The voice said, "Good. Then tell her father's ghost the second daughter signs tonight." Mateo shot the floor 1 inch from Ethan's shoe. The bullet cracked marble. Ethan dropped the folder. The hidden phone skidded across the floor, still glowing. On speaker, the man laughed. "Temper, Mateo." Mateo crushed the phone under his heel. The call died. Richard grabbed Ethan by the back of his jacket and hissed, "You idiot!" Not, "Are you hurt?" Not, "What have you done?" Idiot. As if Ethan had mishandled a meeting, not sold me into a war. I looked at Mateo. "Second daughter. What did he mean?" His silence answered. My mother had only one daughter, me, unless the phrase meant something else. Mateo ordered his men to seal the room. Guests protested, then remembered they liked breathing. Ethan turned to me with a new face, desperate and thin. "Olivia, listen, you don't understand what's happening." "You're right." "You need me. If Morozov is involved, I can help." "You just told me I was useful." "I was angry." "No, you were honest." His eyes flashed. "Stop acting like this is about your feelings. This is bigger than you." That sentence did something strange. All night he had made me small, my body, my grief, my name. But now he wanted me to accept I was too small to matter. I looked at the guests, at Sienna's bracelet, at Victoria's blank face, at Richard Kingsley looking less like a father and more like a cornered criminal. "No," I said, "this is exactly about me now." Mateo's eyes shifted to me. "Come with me." Ethan laughed. You're leaving with him? You think the Don is saving you because he's kind? No, Mateo said. She is leaving because staying with you is unsafe. Victoria snapped. If she leaves with you, she destroys her reputation. Madam, Mateo said, your reputation is currently bleeding on my shoe. I lifted my ruined gown and walked past Ethan. He caught my wrist again, desperate this time. Mateo moved. 1 second, Ethan's fingers were on me. The next, Mateo had his wrist bent backward until Ethan gasped. I warned you once, Mateo said. This is the last time your hand belongs to you. He released him. I did not look back. Outside the ballroom, Mateo's men lined the corridor. They appeared from elevators, staff doors, service halls. No shouting, no chaos, just obedience. In the private elevator, the doors closed and the ballroom vanished. Then I broke. Not beautifully, not delicately. A sound tore out of me. I pressed a hand over my mouth, but it came anyway. My whole body folded around it. Mateo did not tell me I was beautiful. He did not say Ethan was not worth my tears. He only placed his suit jacket around my shoulders. You have 5 floors, he said. What? To fall apart. After that, you need your mind. I hated him a little for that, and I was grateful. By the underground garage, I had wiped my face and swallowed the worst of it. A black car waited. Mateo sat beside me. 2 cars pulled ahead. 2 more followed. Manhattan slid by in wet fragments, unaware that my life had been gutted behind it. How did you know my father? I asked. 12 years ago, I met Thomas Hart in a warehouse near Red Hook. I thought I was there to collect a debt. He thought he was there to stop a crime. From you? From men using his shipping contracts, cash, guns, people worse than both. He had documents, names, account numbers, enough to hurt families on both sides. Including yours? Yes. I should have recoiled. I had no room left for simple reactions. What happened? Someone tipped off the wrong men. The meeting became an execution. Your father pulled me behind a container when the shooting started, took a bullet meant for my throat. He never told me. He made me promise he never would have to. That makes no sense. It does if you understand him. He did not save me because he liked me. He saved me because he believed the men replacing me would be worse. And you owed him. Yes. So tonight was debt. At first, the answer came too quickly. I waited. Mateo looked out the window. Then I watched Ethan put his hand on you. Something changed in the car. That doesn't make me yours, I said. His gaze returned to me. No, it makes you alive. His Tribeca penthouse was black marble, glass walls, no flowers, no gold. Ethan's wealth begged to be photographed. Mateo's did not care if anyone saw it. A woman in a navy suit waited with 3 laptops open. Clara, Mateo said, show her. She turned one screen toward me. My name appeared, Olivia Margaret Hart. Below it, transfers, contracts, shell entities, shipping codes. My life reduced to a crime map. Ethan began accessing Hart Legacy through shared wedding vendor accounts 8 months ago, Clara said. At first it looked like merger prep. Then we found duplicate authentication requests from Kingsley servers. There was no merger. No, there was a takeover. A timeline appeared. Ethan requesting trust documents. Ethan forwarding probate files. Ethan meeting Sienna before Venice. Ethan opening White Orchid Holdings. The ballroom had been full of white orchids. He decorated my engagement party with the name of the company stealing from me? Clara's expression softened. Yes. She clicked again. If you had signed tonight, your voting interest would have transferred by morning. Within 48 hours, Hart Legacy would have been pledged against Kingsley debt. Within a week, Victor Morozov would have controlled the routes your father died protecting. And the second daughter? Clara hesitated. Mateo said, show her. The screen changed. A hospital consent form. My mother's name at the top. Eleanor Hart. That's from the night she died. Yes, Clara said. St. Aurelia Medical Center. My mother's signature was unmistakable. Another document appeared beside it. Transfer authorization, dated that morning, signed by Ethan Kingsley. And beneath his signature was another. Eleanor Hart, my dead mother's name. My dead mother's handwriting. My dead mother, who had been in the ground for 5 years, apparently agreeing to hand my father's company to the man who had just called me a mistake in front of 200 people. They forged my mother. Matteo leaned over the table. Now you understand. I looked at the signature until it blurred. Then I lifted my eyes. No. Now I start. I did not cry when I saw my dead mother's signature. That frightened me more than the tears. The woman who sobbed in the elevator was gone. Someone colder stared at a forged name like a body on steel. Where did they get it? I asked. Clara opened another file. The original came from St. Aurelia, night of your mother's death. That file was sealed. It was supposed to be. Who accessed it? A list appeared. Hospital administrator, legal clerk, probate attorney, private consultant, Miriam Vale. Vale. Sienna. Her mother, Clara said, former records coordinator. Terminated 6 months after Eleanor Hart's death for patient file irregularities. No criminal charges. Why not? Matteo answered. Someone paid the hospital. Sienna had not simply appeared in Ethan's life. I stood. I want to go there. To the hospital? Matteo asked. To the archive. It is after midnight. Then there will be fewer people lying to my face. No, he said. I turned on him. You don't decide that. I do when men are shooting through rooms because of you. Because of my shares. Because of your father. Because everyone uses dead members of my family to control the living one. Silence. Matteo stepped closer. You think I'm controlling you? I think you saved me from Ethan and brought me here because you need something my father left behind. His face did not change. You want honesty? He asked. Yes. Your father had a ledger, not rumors. A full record tying Kingsley hotels, Morozov shipments, dirty judges, port officials, and 3 families to a laundering route through hotels. When he died, it disappeared. And you think I have it? I think he hid it somewhere only you could reach. My father told me nothing. He told you more than you realized. Don't turn my memories into clues because it suits your war. Viktor Morozov knew second daughter. He knew your mother's file. He knew enough to plant a phone inside that folder. This stopped being Ethan's betrayal the second that call came through. I hated that he was right. Then we go to the hospital. He held my stare. Change first. I looked down. My ivory gown was torn. One strap had slipped. Ethan's marks were still on my wrist. Clara returned with a black garment bag. Inside were trousers, a blouse, boots, and a wool coat. My size. Exactly my size. I looked at Matteo. I had people prepare for several outcomes, he said. Was one of them me surviving public execution in Couture? No, he said. That was yours. 20 minutes later, we entered St. Aurelia Medical Center through a service corridor. In the records basement, the air smelled like old paper and disinfectant. A woman in gray scrubs waited outside the archive door, twisting her badge. Dr. Havel, Matteo said. She looked at me, and fear changed into pity. Olivia Hart. I knew your mother, she whispered. Inside, Dr. Havel unlocked a cabinet and pulled a thin folder. After your mother died, copies of her consent forms were requested, she said. I thought it was grief. My father requested them? No, the folder opened. Richard Kingsley did. He had no right. No, but the request came with court authorization. Judge Alan Crew. I knew the name. Everyone in Manhattan did. Charity galas, justice speeches, Kingsley Foundation dinners. Dr. Havel showed me a note. Priority Handling, Family Asset Protection. Signed, R. Kingsley. Mateo's voice was quiet. Richard started before Ethan. No, Dr. Havel said. We both turned. Her face had gone gray. Before your father died. She removed a yellowed envelope sealed in plastic. Thomas Hart. I misplaced this, she said. Mateo's eyes sharpened. By who? By me. Your father came here after Eleanor's death. He believed someone accessed her file. He asked me for duplicate access logs. I gave him one copy. I kept another because I was scared. Scared of what? I asked. 2 days later, a man came asking if Thomas Hart had left anything behind. He wasn't Kingsley. He wasn't police. Morozov, Mateo said. She nodded. I opened the envelope. Inside was a printed log and a handwritten note from my father. My Liv, if you are reading this, someone has forced you to look at what I tried to keep away from you. I am sorry. I thought I had more time. My knees weakened. Your mother's death was not the beginning. It was the warning. Kingsley is not the serpent. He is the glove. Look for the wolf, but do not trust the man who hunts it. Do not trust the man who hunts it. Mateo read the line over my shoulder. His face turned to stone. Before either of us could speak, the lights went out. Dr. Havel screamed. Red emergency glow washed over the shelves. Beyond the door, a guard hit the floor. Then my phone lit up. Unknown number. Your father warned you about Mateo for a reason. The message glowed in my palm. Mateo read it. A guilty man panics. An innocent man defends himself. Mateo became unreadable. I stepped away. You knew. No? Then why aren't you surprised? Because Thomas Hart was a smart man. Behind the door, metal scraped. 3 sharp knocks. A rhythm. Mateo drew his gun. Stay behind the shelf. Do women in your life ever listen? Only the dead ones. Mateo fired through the door. A body hit the other side. Then the door burst open. 2 men entered in maintenance uniforms with suppressed pistols. No shouting. No threats. They were here to erase the archive. Mateo moved like violence had been written into his bones. One man fell. The second fired back, tearing paper from boxes. I crawled behind a cabinet, clutching my father's note. Dr. Havel whimpered. I dragged her down as a bullet punched through where her face had been. Mateo killed the second man at the end of the aisle. Then silence. Move. We ran past the unconscious guard and out the service exit. A black SUV waited in the alley, its window lowered. Sienna Vale sat inside. No silver gown, no runway smile. Black coat, dark glasses. Fear made her look younger. Mateo raised his gun. Sienna lifted her hands. If I wanted her dead, she'd be dead in the archive. I stepped forward. You sent the message. Yes. You knew about my mother's file. I knew pieces. You helped Ethan forge her name. No, Ethan signs what smarter men place in front of him. Get out, Mateo said. Sienna looked at him like a bad memory. Still giving orders to women in alleys. His gun did not lower. She stepped out, slower than a woman should move around guns. Up close she was less perfect. Cut hairline, shadowed makeup, trembling fingers. You want the truth about your father? She asked me. Stop letting him feed it to you. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't. Believe what I can prove. She took out a black flash drive between 2 fingers. I copied this before Victor's men cleaned Ethan's apartment. What's on it? Your father's company codes, Kingsley payment routes, photos of the necklace. What necklace? She looked surprised, then pity crossed her face. You don't know. What necklace? Your mother's blue diamond. Thomas bought it in Paris. Ethan gave it to me 3 months ago. My blood went cold. My mother wore that necklace once a year on her anniversary,
a deep blue stone at her throat, while my father looked at her like the room had disappeared. After she died, it vanished.
My father said it was locked away. You wore my dead mother's necklace? I didn't know whose it was at first. At first? Her silence answered. Mateo asked, "Where is it?"
Victor has it. It goes into the Morozov charity auction tonight. Lot 26, anonymous estate piece.
My mother is not an estate piece, I said. Sienna lowered her eyes. Mateo took the flash drive before I could. Clara verifies it. Sienna's gaze flicked down the alley.
No time. Victor knows the archive failed. He'll move the auction unless she contacts Ethan before sunrise.
Why would I contact Ethan?
Because Ethan still thinks you are weak enough to want answers. He'll come if you ask.
And he'll bring the one thing he thinks can force you to listen.
What? The original file from the night your father died.
Mateo went still. My father didn't die in a hospital.
No,
Sienna said, but the man who survived the boat did. The boat exploded. Everyone said there were no survivors.
Everyone lied.
Sienna stepped closer. Ask your Don why your father's body was identified by a ring, not a face. I remembered the funeral, the closed coffin. My aunt whispering the damage was too severe. My father's signet ring displayed beside his portrait, not his body, never his body. My phone buzzed. Ethan. A call. Sienna said, "Answer it." Mateo said, "No." I answered. For 3 seconds only breathing. Then Ethan whispered, "Olivia, thank God. Whatever Mateo told you, he's lying. Your father didn't die because of Kingsley." Then why did he die? A pause. Because he found out what Mateo buried under the Hart docks. The call went dead. I turned to Mateo. What did he mean? Sienna watched us like someone who had thrown a match into gasoline. Mateo did not look at me. "Cash," he said. "Weapons. False passports. Things your father should never have found. He found your crime. He found a route I inherited and was trying to cut out. That is convenient. It is the truth. The truth from the man my father warned me not to trust." Sienna's phone buzzed. She checked it and went pale. Victor moved the auction. "When?" Mateo asked. "Tonight, midnight. The public charity event is a cover." Mateo checked his watch. 1:31 a.m. "Where?" "The Whitmore Museum, lower gallery." The Whitmore, Ethan had taken me there once. He spoke to donors and left me beside a marble statue with warm champagne while people glanced at my dress size. Rich men love displaying stolen things under soft lighting. "My mother's necklace is there?" Sienna nodded. "And Ethan?" "He'll go if I tell him you want to meet." Mateo said, "No." I looked at him. "You do not get to keep saying that. He is baiting you." "Good, then he'll come close enough to talk. Or close enough to die." "Whose fault is that?" Silence. Then Mateo stepped toward me, slow enough that I could step away. I didn't. "You want answers from Ethan, fine. But you will not walk into Morozov's museum blind." "I'm not blind anymore." "No, you're furious. That's worse." Inside the SUV, Clara's voice came through Mateo's secure line. "The drive is real. Kingsley payment chains, Morozov shell entities, and a folder marked Hart Personal." "Open it," I said. There was typing. Then Clara said, softer, "There are photographs, the necklace, Eleanor wearing it, then Sienna wearing it, then an appraisal dated last week." I looked at Sienna's reflection in the glass. "Was it heavy?" "What?" "My mother's necklace, when Ethan put it on you." Her mouth opened, closed. It was cold. Good. I wanted her uncomfortable. Clara continued, "There's another folder, boat." "Open it." Mateo's hand tightened. "Olivia, open it." A recording filled the car. Wind, water, a man breathing hard. Then my father's voice. Eleanor was not natural. I know that now. If this reaches Olivia, tell her I am sorry I mistook patience for safety. My hand flew to my mouth. My father continued, strained. Kingsley had access, but he was not alone. The wolf wants the ports. DeLuca wants the ledger. Crew wants the judges protected. And the man closest to me wants Olivia quiet. A second voice spoke in the background. Thomas, we need to move. I froze. Not Mateo, older, familiar, Uncle Adrian. My mother's brother-in-law, the man who had walked me down the aisle that never happened. The man who held my hand at both funerals, the man managing what remained of my family trust because I had been too broken to understand it. No, I whispered. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Adrian, I answered. Olivia, Adrian said, breathless. Thank God. You need to get away from Mateo. Where are you? At home, he lied badly. Behind him, I heard strings, glasses, polished noise. You're at the museum, I said. Silence. Then his tone changed, not worried, hard. You always were your mother's daughter, too emotional to survive business. The words went through me like ice. You helped kill my father. Your father killed himself by refusing to understand power. Did you kill my mother too? Quiet. Too quiet. Then Adrian said, She found the first account. Sienna looked away. Mateo's face went murderous. Adrian continued, almost bored. She was smarter than Thomas gave her credit for. Smart women create complications. Something inside me went still. Where is Ethan? Waiting for you. He thinks he can still apologize back into your trust. Pathetic boy. And my mother's necklace? At the museum, around the highest bidder's neck by sunrise, unless you come take it. Mateo took the phone. Adrian. A pause. Mateo, my uncle said. Still pretending you are not the knife in every room? If she has one scratch when this ends, I will peel your name off every building in Manhattan before I peel the skin from your hands. Adrian laughed. Olivia, if you want the truth about your parents, come to the Whitmore alone. If DeLuca enters, I burn the ledger and the necklace with it. The call ended. Mateo shook his head. No. But I was done asking permission from men who had turned my life into a locked room. I opened the door and stepped onto the curb. Across the street, the museum glowed gold. At the top of the stairs, Ethan stood in a tuxedo, pale and desperate, holding a sealed file to his chest. Behind the glass doors, on velvet beneath armed guards, my mother's blue diamond necklace caught the light. Beside it stood Uncle Adrian, smiling like family. The museum doors opened before I touched them. Inside, violins played under a painted ceiling. Men in tuxedos turned. Women in diamonds stopped whispering. Nobody screamed. Ethan stood 10 feet away, clutching the file like a child with copied homework. He looked awful. Not poor. Men like Ethan never looked poor, but cracked, bow tie crooked, hair fallen, face pale. When he saw me, relief flashed through him so fast it almost looked like love. Almost. Olivia, he whispered. I stopped at the center of the hall. My mother's necklace rested under glass in the lower gallery. The blue diamond burned cold. For 5 years I imagined it locked in a bank vault with the last pieces of my mother. Instead, it had been polished, catalogued, priced, displayed. My uncle stood beside it in a black tuxedo and gentle smile. The same smile from both funerals. The same smile from engagement dinners. The same smile from every lie. Ethan moved to block me. Don't go near him. Listen first. You have 30 seconds. I didn't know about your mother. I looked at him. His eyes dropped. Not at first. At first. My father said Hart Legacy was drowning. He said marrying you would protect it. He said Adrian approved. While you slept with Sienna? That was different. Different. Betrayal always came with categories when cowards explained it. What's in the file? The survivor statement. Give it to me. Not here. Give it to me. He shook his head. Adrian said if I hand it over before he speaks to you, he'll release everything tying me to the forged documents. Even now, with my mother's murder between us, he was bargaining around his own reputation. You miserable little man, I said. His face crumpled. No, you don't get to sound hurt by the truth. I moved past him. This time, he did not touch me. The crowd parted. I recognized bankers, judges, charity wives, men my uncle had introduced as friends of the family. They watched me with the neutrality of accomplices deciding whether the body belonged to them. Adrian opened his arms slightly. My dear girl. Don't. Still dramatic. My mother was dramatic too, wasn't she, when she found the first account? A ripple moved through the guests. Adrian's eyes sharpened. Lower your voice. Why? Afraid they'll hear family business. He approached like he was coming to comfort me. Olivia, you've had a shock. Ethan humiliated you. Mateo frightened you. Sienna poisoned your mind. You killed my mother. The room froze. Adrian sighed, not shocked, disappointed. Eleanor was brilliant, he said. Brilliant women assume intelligence protects them from power. You admit it. I admit she found something she should have brought to me instead of Thomas. She trusted you. She underestimated me. The honesty was almost unreal. And my father? Thomas thought morality was a wall. It was a curtain, pretty, thin, useless. You blew up his boat. No. Too fast. Then who did? Adrian smiled. Ask Mateo. He looked at Ethan. Give it to her. Ethan handed me the sealed file. Inside, a hospital intake form, a burned photograph of my father's boat, and a typed statement from Carlo Bellini. Survivor. Explosion at 11:42 p.m. Thomas Hart alive after impact. Unknown second vessel. 2 shooters. Recovered item from survivor, black DeLuca signet pin, a DeLuca marker. Proof, or something shaped like proof. My father's note echoed, do not trust the man who hunts it. Adrian leaned closer. Mateo did not come because Ethan hurt you. He came because if Kingsley got your shares, Morozov got the docs. If you kept them, Mateo had a chance to find the ledger. You are not a woman to him, Olivia. You are access. The words fit. That was the danger. They fit Mateo's silences. They fit his cold answers. They also fit Adrian too well. I looked down at the statement. Carlo Bellini, DeLuca pin, closed coffin. A father warning me not to trust the hunter, not to run from him. Where is Carlo now? I asked. Dead. When? Years ago. Convenient. Necessary. There, a crack. I smiled. Adrian noticed too late. What did you do? I lifted the file. You let me touch the evidence. He saw the thin black scanner Clara had given me, pressed beneath my thumb. Every page copied. Adrian's gentle mask vanished. You stupid girl. There she was again. Every man had a name for me when I stopped obeying. Behind the glass doors, a shadow moved. Mateo. Adrian followed my eyes. His hand went inside his jacket. So did 3 men around the gallery. The first shot shattered the necklace case. People screamed. The blue diamond slid across broken glass, spun once, then dropped at my feet. Adrian grabbed my arm and pulled me against him, cold metal pressed under my ribs. You should have signed at the party, he whispered. Across the gallery, Mateo stepped into the light with a gun in each hand. Adrian tightened his grip. One more step and I put Eleanor's daughter beside her. Mateo stopped. Then the elevator doors behind him opened. Sienna walked out, bleeding from the mouth, Viktor Morozov's silver wolf bracelet wrapped around her fingers instead of her wrist. Behind her came Victor himself, smiling. Viktor Morozov entered like danger had waited for permission. He was older than I expected, white hair, black coat, pale eyes polished by years of letting others die first. Sienna stumbled forward. The wolf bracelet dangled from her fingers. Adrian's gun stayed under my ribs, but I felt him stiffen. He expected Mateo, not Viktor. Mateo stood across the gallery. "Viktor." "Mateo," Morozov said, "still arriving late and calling it strategy." Ethan stood near a marble column with his hands half raised, finally understanding he had never been a player. He had been a table chip. Viktor looked at me. "Thomas Hart's daughter. I expected more crying." "You sound disappointed." "A little. Your fiancé promised spectacle." Sienna wiped blood from her lip. "He promised she would break before the ring came off." Ethan snapped. "Sienna, shut up." "Still giving orders with no army," she said. Viktor tilted his head. "You have developed an unfortunate habit of surviving instructions." Sienna lifted the bracelet. "And you developed an unfortunate habit of putting cameras on gifts." Viktor's smile faded. Mateo noticed. So did Adrian. So did I. "Inside the wolf's eye," Sienna said to me. "Tiny recorder. Viktor used it to watch Ethan, to make sure he humiliated you properly." The bracelet had recorded the ballroom, everything. Victoria, Ethan, the folder, the hidden phone, Viktor's voice asking if the fat bride was crying. My humiliation had been preserved by the man who ordered it. Viktor said, "You were prettier silent." "No," Sienna said, "I was cheaper silent." Then she threw the bracelet, not to Mateo, to me. Adrian jerked me back, but I bent and caught it near my foot. The gun dug into my side. Pain flashed white. I still got my hand around the wolf. Adrian hissed, "Drop it." I drove my heel into his instep. He cursed and loosened his grip. I twisted. The gun fired into the floor. The gallery erupted. Mateo moved. Viktor's men moved. Glass rained. Guests crawled under display cases. Ethan covered his head behind a sculpture. The blue diamond necklace lay on the floor between us. I grabbed it. A hand seized my hair. Adrian. His face was no longer gentle. "You ungrateful little..." Mateo's gun pressed under his jaw. "Finish that sentence." Adrian's mouth closed. Gunfire stopped because every weapon had found a target. Viktor's men aimed at Mateo. Mateo's men had appeared on the balcony, aiming down. Sienna stood between worlds, bleeding and smiling like she had accepted death. Ethan crawled out. "Enough! I'll give you whatever you want." Everyone looked at him. The silence humiliated him. Viktor chuckled. "The boy still thinks he owns something." Ethan said, "My father has accounts. Your father has warrants being signed," Mateo said. Adrian's eyes darted. "What did you do?" I answered. "He let you all come into one room." Adrian looked at the wolf bracelet in my hand, the recorder, the scanned file, the call logs, the necklace. For the first time, he saw me as a threat. "You should have left me crying in the ballroom," I said. "That version might have signed." Viktor looked at Mateo. "You gave her a spine." "No," Mateo said. "They broke everything around it." Adrian lunged at me. Mateo fired into his shoulder. My uncle hit the marble screaming. I did not move toward him. That was when I knew something inside me had changed. The man who held me at my parents' funerals was bleeding 10 feet away, and all I felt was cold clarity. Viktor lifted one hand. His men aimed at the guests. "The problem with evidence," Viktor said, "is that witnesses are easier to remove than recordings." Judge Crew whispered from behind a column, "Viktor, wait." Viktor looked disgusted. "Politicians, always begging at the wrong moment." Mateo said, "Kill civilians in front of my men, and you don't leave this building." "Neither does she." Viktor's gun rose toward me. Ethan stood. "Wait!" His voice cracked. Everyone turned. He held the survivor file in both hands. "You want the ledger? I know where it is." Viktor's expression changed. Mateo's too. Adrian's from the floor. Ethan looked at me, desperate to matter one final time.
I didn't know before, he whispered. I know now.
Ethan, I said, don't. The ledger isn't at the docks. It isn't in Hart's servers. Victor stepped toward him. Ethan looked at my mother's necklace in my hand. Thomas Hart hid it inside Olivia's engagement ring. The world stopped. My ring. The one Ethan had taken from my finger in front of everyone. The one sitting in his pocket. Every gun shifted toward him. Ethan reached into his jacket with shaking fingers and pulled out the diamond ring. The setting had a hidden seam, a memory chip buried under a bride's humiliation. Victor smiled. Mateo went still. Ethan whispered, "Olivia, I'm sorry." Then the museum lights went black. Darkness closed over the room like a hand. Someone screamed. Glass cracked under frantic shoes. Guns clicked in every direction. "Olivia," Mateo called. Then a body slammed into me. I fell against broken glass, cutting my palm. The necklace dug into one fist, the wolf bracelet into the other. Both felt tiny beside the thing Ethan had just revealed. My engagement ring, my father's ledger. A shot cracked. "Down!" Mateo snapped. I dropped. A bullet tore through where my head had been. Emergency lights flickered red. For half a heartbeat, the gallery appeared. Ethan frozen with the ring, Victor moving toward him, Adrian crawling behind broken glass, Sienna reaching for a fallen gun, Mateo between me and 3 armed men. Darkness swallowed it again. "Ethan!" I shouted. I hated myself for it. But he had the ring. No, my father had the ring. Ethan's voice cracked. "I can't see." "Don't move," Mateo ordered. Of course Ethan moved. Shoes scraped, a grunt, a choked sound. Red light flashed again. Victor had Ethan by the throat, one hand closing around the ring. Ethan tried to hold on. For one ridiculous second, he looked at me with the wounded face he had used after I slapped him, as if pain made him innocent. "Olivia," he gasped, "help me." Victor smiled. Even now, he asked the woman he ruined to save him. I stood. Mateo snapped, "No." But I moved toward Adrian, not Victor. My uncle was crawling toward the file. I picked up a shard of glass and pressed it to his throat. "Tell Victor to let him go." Adrian laughed. "You won't cut me." I pressed harder. Blood appeared. "Tell him." He saw my mother in my eyes, my father, every person he thought he had outlived. "Victor," he called, "wait!" Victor did not look. "That is not your ring anymore, Adrian." There it was, the deeper betrayal. Adrian thought the ledger would be his. Victor had never planned to share. Victor pried Ethan's fingers open. The ring dropped into his palm. Mateo stepped. Victor lifted Ethan by the throat. One more step, the boy dies. I looked at the necklace in my hand. Victor had the ring. Adrian was under me. Sienna's fingers were inches from the gun. Then I saw Adrian's eyes flick to my necklace. Too fast. I smiled. The ring did not open alone. My father had split the key. One piece hidden in the symbol of marriage Ethan used to humiliate me. One piece hidden in the necklace stolen from my mother's throat. I rose. Victor finally looked at me. He saw the necklace. Everyone understood. The ring was useless without me, without her, without Eleanor. "Give me the necklace," Victor said. "No." "You are surrounded by men with guns. And somehow you still need to ask." Mateo's gaze cut to me. Pride and fear moved through it at once. Victor lifted the ring. "This ledger will make every powerful man in New York bleed. DeLuca, Kingsley, Morozov, judges, banks. You think you can survive owning it?" "No," I said. He paused. "I think I can survive releasing it." Victor's thumb tightened on his gun. Sienna's fingers closed around the fallen weapon. She did not aim at Victor. She aimed at the sprinkler panel and fired. The panel exploded. A deafening alarm ripped through the museum. Water burst from the ceiling. The room became chaos.
Men slipped, guns jammed,
Guests ran. Mateo shot the man closest to Victor and moved toward me. Victor lunged for the necklace. I stepped back, heel catching glass. I fell. The necklace flew from my hand, sliding toward Victor. Then Ethan moved. He threw himself onto it, not beautifully, desperately. Victor kicked him in the ribs. Ethan rolled, coughing blood, fist closed around the necklace. Victor aimed at Ethan's head. "Open your hand!" Ethan looked at me. Water ran down his face like tears. "I'm sorry," he whispered. This time, I believed he meant it. It did not save him. A shot rang out. Victor staggered. Behind him stood Sienna, both hands on the gun, shaking. "You don't get to own all of us," she said. Victor looked down at the blood spreading through his coat, offended. Then he fired back. Sienna fell. "No!" I shouted. Mateo slammed Victor into a column. The ring flew from Victor's hand and spun across the floor, disappearing under a velvet rope. Ethan crawled toward me with the necklace. He pressed it into my palm. "I didn't know how to love you," he rasped. "But I knew how to be afraid." "That is not the same thing." "I know." His eyes shifted past me. Adrian was standing. Somehow, impossibly, he had the ring. "Enough," my uncle said. Mateo turned. Victor, bleeding on the marble, lifted a small detonator from his coat. "Choose, Mateo," he said. "The girl's uncle with the ledger, or the museum full of witnesses?" A red light blinked. Somewhere beneath the floor, something armed with a metallic click. The click was small. That made it worse. Mateo stood 6 feet from Victor. Adrian vanished into the service corridor with the ring. Sienna lay motionless near the shattered panel. Ethan coughed behind me. Victor smiled. "Go on. Be sentimental. Chase the uncle. Save the secret. Let the witnesses die." If Mateo shot him, Victor's thumb could release the trigger. If Mateo chased Adrian, Victor could press it.
If Mateo stayed, Adrian escaped. Every path had a body. Victor looked at me. "Your father faced this problem. Evidence in one hand, lives in the other. He chose evidence. That is why he burned. Men like Victor told the truth only when they thought it hurt more than lies. But my father had not chosen evidence over lives. Someone had made it look that way, like my mother's signature, like Mateo's pin, like me as a broken bride. I lifted the necklace. "You need me alive." Victor's smile thinned. "The jewelry is the lock," I said. "But my father would not trust objects alone. There's something else, a phrase, a memory, something only I know." Victor's eyes confirmed it. That was why he wanted me humiliated, not dead. A broken woman signs. A dead woman locks the vault forever. Mateo's gaze moved to Sienna. Her hand twitched, not toward the gun now, but toward the balcony mirror above the eastern arch. A tiny red sensor blinked there. Remote receiver. Victor was not holding the real trigger. He was holding permission. Mateo saw it. His gun shifted. Victor said, "Do not." Mateo fired. The mirror exploded. Victor slammed his thumb down. Nothing happened. For 1 second, the museum waited for death. Only water fell. Mateo fired again. The detonator flew apart in Victor's hand. Victor stared at his empty fingers. I swung my mother's necklace as hard as I could. The diamonds struck his face. He fell into broken glass with a sound that was not legendary, just human. I ran to Sienna. She was alive. Barely. "Don't," she whispered. "I'm not leaving you." "That's stupid." "Probably." Her fingers closed weakly around my sleeve. "Adrian has the ring." "Mateo will get him." "No, Adrian won't run far." "What does that mean?" "He wanted you here, not just the necklace. You." "Why?" "Because your father didn't hide the final key in the jewelry." My heart stopped. "Where?" Sienna's eyes filled with fear.
In you.
Medics rushed in. Hands pulled me away. Mateo called, "Olivia!" He stood over Victor, who was being restrained. Blood ran from Mateo's temple. "Adrian!" The ring, the service corridor, the ledger. I rose. Ethan was near the sculpture, one hand pressed to his ribs. "Olivia," he rasped. I stopped. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black velvet pouch. I lied. My stomach tightened. "The ring in Adrian's hand is a copy." Mateo went still. Ethan opened the pouch. Inside was my engagement ring, the real one. "I had it reset after Venice," he whispered. "Wanted the diamond bigger. I thought if the ring looked expensive enough, no one would notice I didn't know how to love you." I took it. The moment the ring touched the necklace, both pieces warmed in my palm. A thin blue line pulsed beneath the diamond. Mateo stared. "What the hell did your father build?" My phone vibrated. Unknown number. A video call. I answered. Adrian's face filled the screen. He was somewhere darker, industrial. Metal walls, low ceiling, water, the docks, heart docks. Behind him, Aunt Diane was tied to a chair, gagged, crying, blood on her cheek. My mother's sister. The last person I thought still loved me. Adrian smiled. "Congratulations, you found the real ring." My hand closed around it. "Bring it to the docks. Bring the necklace. Bring no police. Tell Mateo not to be dramatic. There are enough explosives under this pier to finish what the boat started." Aunt Diane sobbed. "1 hour, my dear girl, or I bury the last woman who ever truly knew your mother." The call ended. In my palm, the ring pulsed blue again, like my father's heart had started beating. The drive to Hart Docks felt longer than every year I had spent grieving. The city before dawn had gone colorless. Steel, rain, shuttered storefronts, black river. Silence after powerful people realized night might not protect them. Mateo sat beside me, one hand on his gun. He had not tried to take the ring. That frightened me more than if he had. Across from us, Ethan sat hunched over, ribs wrapped badly beneath a torn shirt. Mateo had wanted him left with medics. Ethan refused with the first useful sentence I had heard from him. "Adrian still thinks I'm stupid enough to control," he said. "Let him keep thinking that." So Mateo let him come, not for mercy, strategy. Hart Docks waited in Red Hook, soaked in salt fog. My father's old freight office stood near the water, windows black, sign rusted but readable. Hart Legacy Shipping. I had avoided this place for 5 years. Now it looked less like a company and more like a grave with doors. We stopped 2 blocks away. "No police," Mateo said. "My men are around the perimeter. If Adrian wired the pier, we move carefully." "And if he sees them?" "He won't." "You sound sure." "I pay well for invisible." Ethan gave a weak laugh. Mateo looked at him. He stopped. The warehouse door was open. Inside, the air smelled of rust, river, old wood, diesel. Shipping containers stood in rows. At the center, beneath a hanging lamp, Aunt Diane was tied to a chair, alive, crying. Adrian stood behind her with one hand on her shoulder and a gun in the other. He looked elegant again, shoulder bandaged, hair smooth, face composed. Only his eyes gave him away. Pride had eaten whatever was human. "My dear girl," he said, "you came. Let her go. You still ask for mercy as if it has value. No, I'm giving you one chance to pretend you ever loved this family." Aunt Diane sobbed against the gag. Adrian removed it. "Livy," she gasped, "I'm sorry." The child in me almost moved. The woman did not. "What did you do?" "I didn't know he would kill Eleanor, I swear." The warehouse tilted. Adrian sighed. "Diane found the first discrepancy before your mother. A routing number, a small account. She brought it to me because she trusted her husband. I thought it was fraud," Diane sobbed. "Not murder." "Not murder?" I asked. She broke. Answer enough. Adrian leaned over her. "Eleanor was less cooperative. She followed the money. She called me a parasite." She was right. His smile sharpened. She also said you would never be used by men like us. Sentimental. The ring pulsed blue in my palm. Adrian saw it. Show me. No. He pressed the gun to Diane's temple. Show me. I unwrapped the cloth. The blue diamond necklace spilled beside the ring. Both lights pulsed together. Beautiful, he whispered. Thomas loved theatrics. What is it? The ledger key. I know. No, Olivia. You know the jewelry holds the lock. You don't know what opens it. Sienna's words returned. In you. Mateo said, Explain. Adrian looked amused. Still pretending you command the room? Mateo took one step. Adrian pressed the gun harder to Diane's temple. Mateo stopped. Your father knew objects could be stolen, Adrian said. Files copied, men tortured. So he built the final phrase around something only Olivia would remember. What phrase? Adrian smiled. Second daughter. My mother only had one daughter. Your mother, yes. Thomas Hart had two. Silence. I heard Ethan whisper. What? You're lying. Ask Diane. Diane cried too hard to speak. Before you were born, she whispered, your father had a child with another woman, a little girl. Before Eleanor, he protected her. She died young. My throat tightened. Why didn't they tell me? Because Eleanor carried that secret like a wound, Adrian said. But Thomas never forgot. When you were born, he called you his second miracle, his second daughter. That became the phrase. I searched my memory, my father's voice, bedtime, his hand smoothing my hair, my second star, my second little heart. Not second daughter. Almost, but not exactly. Adrian held out his hand. The ring. No. Give me the key and Diane lives. Diane sobbed. Livy, don't. Adrian struck her with the gun. Mateo's gun rose a fraction. Ethan saw it, and Ethan, broken ribs and all, did the first brave thing I had seen him do without an audience. He threw himself at Adrian. The gun went off. Diane screamed. Mateo fired. Adrian's hand burst red. The gun spun across concrete. Ethan crashed into him. Run! Mateo shouted. I did not run. I raised the ring to my mouth and searched my childhood. Not second daughter, not second miracle. The storm phrase, the one my father whispered when I was afraid of fog. I closed my eyes. My second star always finds the harbor. The ring went bright blue. A chip clicked free. Across the warehouse, old freight office screens lit one by one. Bank accounts, judges, port manifests, medical payments, Kingsley transfers, Morozov roots, Adrian's name, Eleanor Hart's death file, Thomas Hart's final recording. The ledger was not opening, it was broadcasting. Upload in progress, 12%. Adrian screamed and lunged for a terminal. Mateo hit him before he reached it. Then the floor vibrated. From below came a deep mechanical groan. Adrian, pinned beneath Mateo, laughed. You think I would let Thomas win from the grave? The screens flashed. Upload in progress, 19%. Every red warning light turned on. Mateo grabbed Adrian by the collar. What did you do? Adrian smiled at me through blood. The same thing we did to your father's boat. Beneath Hart docks, explosives began to beep. The first beep was slow, the second faster. By the third, everyone understood it was not a warning. It was a countdown. Upload in progress, 24%. Adrian laughed. If the ledger uploads, the charges blow. If you cut power, the charges blow. If you move the server, the charges blow. Thomas built a dead man's confession, so I built a dead man's grave. Mateo looked at me. Leave. No. Olivia. No. The word came calm. I was standing where my father's life had been dismantled, holding my mother's necklace and the ring Ethan used to shame me. while the walls filled with proof that every person who called my family tragic had helped make us that way. I was not leaving at 24%. Mateo slammed Adrian against a beam. "Where are the charges?" "Under the pier, old fuel channel. Same place your people hid shipments, Mateo. Poetic." Mateo hit him once. Adrian laughed. "You can break my face. You can't break time." Upload in progress, 31%. One of Mateo's men burst in soaked from fog. "6 charges under the west span, wired to the old pump system. We can't reach all." "How long?" 4 minutes, maybe less." Ethan pushed himself up. "The pump system." I turned. "What?" "Kingsley used these docks during renovations. There's an old manual floodgate beneath the freight office. If it opens, the fuel channel fills from the river." "Water could drown the charges?" Mateo asked. "Maybe. Or trigger them faster." Adrian laughed. "There is the boy I know. Always almost useful." Ethan flinched, then steadied. "I know the mechanism." "You'll die," I said. He gave a broken smile. "I know." I waited for him to ask forgiveness, to turn sacrifice into performance. He didn't. He looked at the ring. "I took that from you in front of everyone. Let me give you this privately." Mateo's jaw tightened. "Move." Ethan limped toward the loading bay with 2 men behind him. Adrian snapped, "Ethan, don't be stupid." Ethan stopped. "You know what's funny? All night everyone kept calling me stupid. You, my father, Victor, even her." His eyes flicked to me. "You were all right, but for once, I know exactly what I'm doing." Then he disappeared down the stairs. Upload in progress, 43%. The beeping quickened. Mateo grabbed my arm. "Now you leave." "The upload isn't done." "I don't care." "Yes, you do." His eyes burned. "I care that you are alive when the sun comes up." There was only Mateo De Luca, the man my father told me not to trust, standing in front of me with terror hidden under fury because he could not command me out of danger. "My father died trying to make this public," I said. "My mother died for one account. Sienna bled for this. Ethan is down there holding a gate. If I run now, Adrian still wins." Mateo looked like he wanted to carry me out. Instead, he turned to his man. "Get Diane out." "No!" Diane cried. "Livy!" I looked at her. Guilt had hollowed her, but love was there too, cracked, late, useless, real. "Tell my mother I heard her," I said. They dragged her toward the exit. Adrian spat. "You think this makes you powerful? You're still the little girl who needed someone to walk her through every room." "No," I said. "I'm the woman you built by mistake." Upload in progress, 58%. The floor shuddered. Below, water roared. The floodgate opened. The beeping stuttered. Hope entered the room. Then the screens flickered. My heart stopped. Adrian's laughter filled the warehouse. I lunged to the terminal. The system demanded authorization again. A backup battery icon blinked. 11%. Then 10. The upload had stopped at 58. Adrian closed his eyes like a man hearing music. Thomas always loved failsafes. I loved them more. I looked at the ring. The blue light was fading. My father built this for me. What had he said? My second star always finds the harbor, not the office, not the docks, the harbor. I looked through dirty windows toward the Black River. "Mateo," I whispered, "the upload isn't meant to finish here." He followed my gaze. "The harbor. My father built ships. He'd trust something moving." On the screen, beneath the failed upload, a tiny network label blinked. Heart Lantern 2. Lantern. The old buoy outside the dock. When I was a child, my father told me if I ever got lost, look for the blinking light and follow it home.
I grabbed the dusty radio unit beside the keyboard and turned the dial until static cracked. "Lantern 2, I said.
"This is Olivia Hart?"
Nothing. Battery 7%. Adrian's smile faltered. He had not known. Good. I pressed the ring against the radio panel. Blue light flared. My father's recorded voice said, "Authorization phrase." My throat closed. I leaned into the microphone. "My second star always finds the harbor." Static. Every screen went black. For one terrible second, I thought I had failed. Then the harbor outside lit blue. The buoy flashed once. Twice. The warehouse screens exploded back to life. Upload redirected. Heart Lantern 2 active. Upload in progress. 81%. Adrian screamed. Not pain. Defeat. He lunged at me. Mateo caught him by the throat and drove him into concrete. The beeping changed again. Faster. Water had not killed every charge. Mateo grabbed me. This time, I did not fight.
We ran past terminals, containers, and the place where my father's company became a battlefield. Behind us, the screens flashed. 89%, 93%, 97%. At the loading bay stairs, Ethan stood waist-deep in black river water, both hands locked around a rusted lever while Mateo's men tried to pull him free. "Go!" he shouted. The west side of the pier erupted. The blast threw us forward. Heat slammed into my back. Metal screamed. Glass burst. Mateo wrapped himself around me before we hit the ground, taking the impact against his shoulder. For a few seconds, there was no sound, only ringing. Then river water fell through fire. I lifted my head. The warehouse was half collapsed, flames licking through the roof. The buoy still flashed blue. On Mateo's phone, alerts appeared. Upload complete. Files sent. Federal Task Force. Files sent. International Press Pool. Files sent. Hart Legacy Board. Files sent. Olivia Hart. I laughed. It hurt. I laughed anyway. Across the yard, Mateo's men dragged Ethan from the flooded bay. He was alive. Barely conscious, coughing water, bleeding, shaking, but alive. He looked at me once, not asking, not performing, just seeing the woman he had tried to destroy standing in firelight with his kingdom collapsing behind her. I said nothing. That was the mercy he deserved. Sirens arrived with dawn. Federal agents took Adrian in handcuffs while he screamed about private deals, judges, immunity, names that no longer protected him because the ledger had reached the world before he reached another lie. Richard Kingsley was arrested before sunrise. Judge Crew resigned from the bench in handcuffs. Victor Morozov died in surgery before he could bargain. Sienna survived. Ethan confessed to everything he knew and lost everything he thought he was. 3 weeks later, I walked back into the Kingsley Grand, not as a humiliated bride, as the new owner. The ballroom had been stripped of white orchids. The chandelier still glittered, but the Kingsley monogram above the cake table was gone. Workers installed 2 words in black steel: Hart House. I wore a black version of my engagement dress, rebuilt from the ruined ivory gown. Same shape, same body, no apology. Mateo stood near the balcony where he first watched my life burn. "You could walk away now," he said. I looked at the marble floor where Ethan had made me remove the ring. The place where I had mistaken humiliation for an ending. Then an assistant entered with a black envelope. No return name. Inside were 3 photographs. 3 men I did not know. And 1 line written in my father's hand. The ledger was only the door. I looked up at Mateo. His face had gone still. He recognized at least one of them. Of course he did. I closed the envelope, held my mother's necklace against my throat, and smiled for the first time without breaking. Then we are not finished.